the first slave ships that brought black people to the New World was named Jesus. White Christians used Bible verses and Bible stories to justify slavery. There was a time when white Christians wouldn't baptize black people because they weren't sure if it was okay to enslave Christians. They quickly changed their theology, baptized their black slaves, and forthrightly sent them back to the fields to work. 4, both black and white prosperity preachers have scammed millions of dollars from faithful black parishioners living in American slums. 5, it is an undeniable fact that Christianity has been a tool of oppression for black people all throughout the world. And yet today, black Americans identify as Christians at a staggering 79%, higher than any other group in this country. So the question is, why are black people still Christians? And while we're at it, I actually think there's a more pressing, more existential question that needs an answer. Does God hate black people? In nearly every country on every continent around the world, darker-skinned people are treated poorly. By nearly every measurable standard, so-called black people are at the bottom of the social hierarchy everywhere. So much so that in majority black countries like Haiti and Nigeria, skin lightening creams are wildly popular. Anything to gain some proximity to whiteness and some distance from blackness. Africa is rich with natural resources, boundless human potential, unfathomable wisdom, and brilliant cultural traditions. And yet, colonial powers have pillaged, exploited, and divided nations and people in ways that are frankly irreparable. Help us out a little bit. We've been through a lot, God. Maybe there's a Bible verse that we can look to. And the Lord will make you the head and not the tail. You shall be above only and not be beneath. Who is this verse about? Not only do black people identify as Christians at a higher rate, half of black Americans report attending church at least once a week. I was one of them. In fact, I was a pastor for a number of years. I've preached all over the country and world. I've given Bible studies. I've baptized folks. I have been in it, and these questions have been nagging me for a while. So
is the historical evidence to support the claim that God is on the side of the oppressed, right? What is the historical evidence that suggests God is on the side of black folks in North America working on their behalf? Because every moment of progress has been countered. And black Christians in particular haven't wrestled with it because they read the Bible assuming they are the favored community. Black theists have ignored it.
On the other hand, Christians like Claudia would argue that Dr. Penn is wrong and that the life of Jesus is proof that he is wrong.
The reason I would say there is a case for Christ as black, as resin, and not necessarily racially, gotta be clear, not necessarily racially black, but experientially black. And that case is that this God put on human flesh, and when he was born in the midst of a genocide, as a strip, teaching brown people about Creator God. He was disrupting the cultural system of not speaking to women. He disrupted the cultural system of not engaging with the unlearned.
Means it should be rightly understood within an Eastern framework. For me, in order to give Christianity a fair shake, I have to understand it separately from the bastardized version we know today. I'll come back to that in my third point. The cultural context of the Bible's authors and main characters would not align with the money-hungry capitalistic structures we know today. This means that success in the biblical narrative exists almost exclusively outside of the confines of worldly possession or wealth accumulation. Our top-down preconception about who is favored and who isn't simply do not fit within the framework of the biblical narrative. In fact, the ultimate main character of the book, Jesus, was a Middle Eastern Jewish man who was born in a barn, lived as a nomad, owned no earthly possessions, believed in sweeping debt forgiveness, and constantly criticized the exploitative practices of businessmen, church grifters, and oppressive governments.
I want to give all the praises and the honor to Yahweh Bahashem, Yahweh Shai Bahashem, Recha HaKwadash, and double honors to the elder apostles and the elder bishops of Great Millstone. Honors as well to you, brethren, you fellow believers of this truth, and shalom to the elect. So, anyway, I saw this video, interesting video. It sounded like the Christian was waking up to the fact of how sick Christianity really was and is, right? And the result of what Christianity has done to us. But then he reverts back and just can't let go the Middle Eastern Jesus. They had him as a white man, but they will not accept him as being a so-called black man. So then they have to say he's Middle Eastern. Lord we'll get into that too. So anyway, this man has said he was a pastor and a preacher. He can't understand the significance of wealth in the Bible and so forth. I have no idea what he's talking about, because it was always about that. Whoever had the wealth had the power, right? Whoever had the power had the women, the own people, and so forth. What you see today is no different than what you seen, what happened in the ancient times, right? Still the sacrificing, still the things that they even admitted to still do, the small hats, right? Ecclesiastes 1:9, it says, the thing that has been, it is that which shall be, and that which is done is that which shall be done. And there's no new thing under the sun. So it was always about wealth. That's why you had kings. Kings were wealthy. Solomon, the greatest king, right? Wealthy. You had a lot of kings. You had a lot of rich people, right? I think David, I forgot who that was. He married the woman, Makkah, I think. I can't remember. But she was originally with a wealthy man, and he died, and David took her, right? So Deuteronomy 17 talks about that with Egypt, not to multiply horses and things like that, because in Egypt it was about wealth, which Joseph stockpiled for the famine or whatever. Well, he made Egypt great as well. So that's why he was deemed one of the top counselors, if I'm not mistaken. So it was all about the wealth. What you see the wealth today, right, it's the same thing. Just as the money has been watered down, like in Rome, the money is watered down in this Roman Empire all over again, right? This is why it's paper money. And now it's to the point they're doing things without the money. They're using credit cards and money out of thin air, right, as wealth. The difference between $100 and $1,000 is 10, right? So I don't know what this guy's talking about on that, but it is what it is. I'm gonna read the scripture real quick. 1 Samuel 2:6. The Lord killeth and maketh alive. He bringeth down to the grave and bringeth up. The Lord maketh poor and the Lord maketh rich. He bringeth low and he lifteth up. This is the prayers of Hannah. He raises up the poor out of the dust, right? Lifteth up the beggar from the dunghill, to set them among princes. And this is exactly what happened to Esau. He showed the picture, and it's kind of sick. This is what I'm going to say. It's kind of sick that this man has literally used Christianity to rape, rob, murder, and torture us. The Jesuits. And another part of this video I want to go into, don't want to jump around, is I did a video with Adam Coleman and those guys, and they saying that Christianity was always here before slavery. So they're trying to equate modern Christianity with what we were doing, calling on Yahweh. Yeah, right. How is that? When we had automatically polygamy, we had automatically holy days. We wasn't following Sunday only as a holy day. But then you know what they said? They said that they needed to civilize us because we were multiplying. You can read this stuff. Now these guys gotta have one wife until they can mate you with one buck with everybody else. We need to control the narrative of what they do, and this is still happening. Okay, now you see feminism, right? Parent parenthood, the whole destruction of a nation, as Jeremiah 17:4 says. So you know, the scriptures. What did Yahushua say? He said, "A corrupt tree bringeth forth a corrupt fruit. A corrupt seed bringeth forth a corrupt tree." And this is why you can't fix Christianity, because the way it was presented to us. Okay? So anyway, he will keep the feet of his saints, and the wicked shall be silent in darkness, for by strength shall no man prevail. When we come into the power of the kingdom, we're going to have the riches too. We're going to have the power. There's emancipation, transference of rulership. right? So that's all that's going to happen. So he said, another thing he said, he can't see how it was, it had anything to do with nations or people or whatever he said. So we're going to listen to a little bit of this.
Brown people about Creator God. He was disrupting the cultural system of not speaking to women. He disrupted the cultural system of not engaging with the unlearned.
Means it should be rightly understood within an Eastern framework. For me, in order to give Christianity a fair shake, I have to understand it separately from the bastardized version we know today. I'll come back to that in my third point. The cultural context of the Bible's authors and main characters would not align with the money-hungry capitalistic structures we know today. This biblical narrative exists almost exclusively.
And that's what I wanted, and I think I already went over that. I have no idea why he said that wouldn't align with the culture you see today. As I just read, there's no new thing under the sun, right? And then the black feminist woman, Christian feminist woman, has somehow got to include the women, right? Which women play their part. And all of a sudden, he's talking with women now like they didn't have a part in the ancient times, like Huldah the prophetess or Deborah, or, you know, there was certain women who had positions or did certain things, or like Paul was talking about in the churches. There's women in the churches that reached a certain age and had positions, so to speak, you know, when they got a little older, that they can do certain things. So I have no idea what this woman is talking about. I don't know if they even read the Bible. It's crazy. Let's go on.
Outside of the confines of worldly possession or wealth accumulation. Our top-down preconception about who is favored and who isn't simply do not fit within the framework of the biblical narrative.
And it actually does fit the framework of the biblical narrative, who is favored and who isn't favored. What is this man talking about? Let's go to Job 34:29, right? It says here, when he giveth quietness, who then can make trouble? Meaning, when he gives you peace, then nobody can trouble you, like the time we had in peace under Solomon. And when he hideth his face, who then can behold him? Like now. He hid his face from us, and that's why we went in that condition. What the hell do you think slavery was all about? Those were business deals. The Barbary slave trade, which was the sub-Saharan slave trade, the transatlantic slave trade. This was all business. What do you think the wars was all about? What is this guy talking about? Whether it be done against a nation or against a man only. So you damn right. I just read in 1 Samuel 2 when he said, the Lord maketh poor and maketh rich. The Egyptians was rich. The Babylonians was rich. The Greeks, the Romans, America, when you come into power, you are rich. So how does that not fit the biblical narrative?
Top-down preconception about who is favored and who isn't simply do not fit within the framework of the biblical narrative. In fact, the ultimate main character of the book, Jesus, was a Middle Eastern Jewish man who was born in a barn.
And there you have Christianity. See, he thought he escaped it. See, what they're trying to do, they're trying to bring some light to what happened to us during the time of slavery. He read Deuteronomy 28. I don't know if I put that up. So he's trying to bring light and trying to trick you into bringing you back to slavery, saying, well, it was, these things did happen, and the white man did use all these tools to do this to us, but Jesus wasn't about that. Well, once you understand the one you call Jesus was about waking up his elect and bringing his elect back and telling us not to have the cares and the riches of this world, is because we're the oppressed ones. So when you start understanding it, it was talking about his poor oppressed Israelites. It wasn't talking about the rich heathen nations. And that's the point. This is madness. And then that's what he's trying to do, is trying to wake people up to the fact that, yeah, we know that Christianity done this to us, but this wasn't what Jesus was about. He was a Jewish Middle Eastern. He was not Jewish. He was a Jew. What the heck is the ish for? Get out of here, man. And then the Lord clearly could have sent him as a non-national person if he was for everybody. But it seems like he was a Jew. And then at the same time, with the corruption of what this man is saying, those people that he's saying is in the Middle East, right? They will say it doesn't matter what we think, as long as we believe in Jesus and come back to him. So it doesn't have nothing to do with blood and ethnicity. But yet they'll still say those people in the Middle East, that's why he called it out, are the people of God. It would be interesting to have a conversation with this man to see what he has to say about that. But anyway, let's take a look at the Middle East. Middle East. This is a picture of the Middle East that was labeled that in the 1800s, I believe, by the League of Nations, some around there, or early 1900s. The Middle East. It's the Eastern Hemisphere. What the hell has the Middle East got to do with anything? And so everybody thinks since somebody was in the Middle East thousands of years ago, they're the same complexion that they are today. There's been wars, right? Egypt has been conquered. As we say, the white man has conquered the majority of nations, and he's mixed his seed. So they'll say olive complected. One site said the Jews was middle brown, and I went and looked up middle brown. It's my complexion. So it seems like us as so-called Negroes, Hispanics, Native Americans, our complexion don't even mean nothing when it comes to these things. The olive complected. Don't our people, ain't our people olive complected? Anyway, Afghanistan, Algeria, which is in where? You see, this is in northern Western Africa. Armenia. Okay. Egypt. Well, how come every time somebody say Middle Eastern, nobody thinks of Egypt? Which Israel is right there. What's up with that? Georgia, Kuwait, all your so-called Sudan, the African country, where the real Egyptians are. So when these quacks, these nut jobs, bring out the Middle Eastern and link it with so-called Jesus, well, let me say the true Messiah, they're in complete error. Because it's a multitude of these countries in the Middle East. It's the Eastern Hemisphere. And the Eastern, and Israel is right there close to Egypt. So who you think was in Israel? And where did we have to flee from when the Israelites fled into Africa, right? In various parts of there. Why is it us there? And why did the slave ships come out of Africa? Well, Europe, but out of Africa. And was none of them on there? These people, right? We would like to say they was in other places, like Russia and various other places. But anyway, I just had to bring that out. Proverbs 20, he talking about people who made their decisions and made their steps. Let's go to Proverbs 20:24 in the NLT. The Lord directs our steps. So why try and understand everything along the way? So there's the Lord that did that. Right? It's the Lord that did that. It's the Lord that directed our steps. Okay? The Lord has already had us chosen from the beginning. Right? Let's go to Jeremiah. I believe it's in Jeremiah. Jeremiah 1. And let's say 5. Before I formed thee in the belly, I knew thee. And before thou camest forth out of the womb, I sanctified thee. And I ordained thee a prophet unto the nations, which nations goes to peoples. Right? So we can see here, the Lord has already chosen his elect from the beginning. Okay? Let me type in, Romans 11. We can go to Isaiah 10 as well, but let me go to Romans 11, just for the sake of Christianity. All right? They don't really go into the Old Testament like that, unless they see stranger or something like that. Romans 11 and 25, 26. And so all Israel shall be saved, as it is written, there shall come out of Zion a deliverer that shall turn away ungodliness from Jacob. That's starting with the elect. It says, as concerning the gospel, they are enemies for your sakes, but as touching the election, They are beloved for the Father's sake. You know, I'm just trying to go up here and show you, was it 11 and 7? Yeah. What then? Israel have not obtained that which he seeketh for. Remember, I just read Proverbs 20:24. Is all man's goings of the Lord. It says, but the election have obtained it, and the rest were blinded. So who blinded them? The Lord blinded them. So it's already written who his elect is. It's already set it up. It's already set up. So anyway, I just thought this was interesting. I don't want to make a really long video out of it because the intro was long. I just wanted to, go into the fact that at the end of the day, it's the Lord who chooses who he will, right? It's the Lord who sets people up, make them rich and make them poor. You clearly can't run a nation without finances. And these people faces is on the money. So why aren't we on there? So in other words, what these guys are trying to do is they're trying to tell us to accept. We understand what you're going through and what happened to us, but God wasn't for all of that. Jesus didn't come for that. Well, Jesus came to save us out of that. And once you start understanding it's about ethnicity, it's about race at the end of the day. As the woman kept talking about black and brown, but I'm not racist. Come on now. God was racist. Deuteronomy 76, Leviticus 20:26, he said he severed you from other people that ye shall be mine. He clearly says in Hebrews 8 that he's coming for the nation of Israel. Anyway, that's all I have on that. Shalom.